Since we added in the MatForm field module in the last video, our application is currently in a broken state. We'll resolve that in this video by adding in our first control, the Angular material input. Let's jump into the documentation and take a look on how we can implement it. And on the left, I have the input component selected. Inside of the overview tab, at the top here, we want to use this MatInput directive inside of our input. And also you could use it within your text area as well. We'll do that as well. And this works with the MatForm field that we set up in the last video. If we take a look at the code example, we already have the MatForm field element inside of our form. We set that up already. Now we need to set up the mat label. We'll add one for our name, and also we'll need another one of these for our email. If you're not sure what input types you could use, on the right here, they have the supported input types. The types we're interested in is the text for the name and the email for our email field. And we also have a text area called message. If we go back up to this example here, so we'll be implementing one of these as well. And we'll be adding some of our own styling inside of our style sheet. But before we could do any of that, we'll need to bring in the module. We already have the MatForm field module. We're already bringing that in. We brought that in the last video. Now we need to set up the MatInputModule. I'll copy this. Back inside the Contact Us form component we were working in the last video, I'll add in the module at the top. And then I'll make sure to bring in the MatInputModule into our imports array, and I'll add that towards the end. And that's the only changes we need to make in here. Moving on to the HTML. And inside of our MatForm field we set up in the last video, we could remove this. We don't need this anymore. And the first thing we'll set up is our label. And to do that, you use the mat label. And then this is going to be called name. Notice the way you regularly do it, the regular markup, and the Angular material way of setting your label. Also within this MatForm field, we'll set up a input. I could just reuse this one right here. And the only change with this is we want to add in the directive. And that's called MatInput. I'll save it so it formats it. That sets up our name. Now we need to set up our email. I'll add a copy of this right below it. Rename it to email. Also update the form control to email as well. And that should match what you have right here within your form. And then the last thing we want to do is add in the type. This is not a type of text, so I'll set this to type of email. That sets up these two controls. I can remove this. Now we need to set up our text area. I'll just do another copy and paste for this again. Name this message. And replace this input here with the text area. And then don't forget to add in the mat input to this as well. So I'll make sure to add that in here. And now we can get rid of this message here. We don't need that anymore. Let's take a look at it the way it is now before we add any styles to it. We resolved that build error, so that's good. And now we have 3 fields and they're using Angular material. Now we can apply some styles to these. So the name and the email, we want them to show up on the same row and eat up like 50% of the row. And then we'll go ahead and put the text area or the message on its own row. A lot of these styles are already created. We just need to apply it to our template. Let's take a look at our style sheet. There's many different ways you can style your form. The way I'm doing it is if we look at this form wrapper from within our style sheet, that is here. I'm setting a overall width of 60% and then using margin auto. So that's going to bump it off both sides 20%. Then added a little padding off the top. Then here we could apply this form grid class to our form element, and that's going to use a grid. Then we can set our grid column to either full width or half width. Let's apply this form grid to our form element. I'll copy this. And then within the form element, I'll add in the class attribute. And then inside of each one of our MatForm fields, I'll add in a class attribute. And then in this case, I want the name to eat up 50%. So I'll use the half width. So I'll jump back over here, add that within this class inside of here. And then the email, I want it to use the same class. And I'll add that within here. And then the last one, I want this to be the full width. So I'll use full here. That should clean up our form. Now we have the name and email showing up on the same line, and the message text area taking up the full width. This looks a lot cleaner. Before moving on to the next controls, let's add some validations to these new fields that we just created. And we'll do that in the next video.